chillin', serial killing, pre-core villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another timely episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 304, recorded Sunday, January 31st, 2021. Tonight we're going to be talking about a new movie called Synchronic. This is our first new release we're going to be talking about of the year, so strap in. Before we get down to it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemangs. How's it going?
Well, I recently learned that a gentleman must know the difference between velvet and velveteen. Do you?
I see.
Do you?
I
Can
mean,
you tell the difference?
I mean, I'm a gentleman, so I'm under no such restrictions. So
Fantastic.
I haven't been hanging out with the Gilbert crowd myself, but more for you, I guess.
You must not be a sinner then, sir.
They always look good.
They always look good.
It's really a smart idea to open our episode with a really idiosyncratic King of the Hill reference.
Yeah, it's what the people want. Last but not least, calling in from the Jacksonville, Florida, we got our boy, Juice. What's up, man?
What up, it's your boy, Conquistador Stains.
Arriba.
Going back in time.
Conquista
boys.
Stain.
Yeah, we got a lot of time travel these past couple weeks.
True.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was what the conceit was going to be for this one.
Yeah, January starting off, lots of time travels.
Gonna
Even
go
the
back
fervor
in
had a
time.
little kind of time travel in it.
It's almost as if people want to not live in the time we're living in for some reason.
Why would they want that?
I just don't know.
Just weird. Oh, boys. Talking about Synchronic. Justin
Yeah,
Benson,
boy.
Aaron Moorhead. What
Yeah.
are they up to these days?
They give me the horrible.
They give you the horrible. I think that's intended. Before we get into the main event, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick.
Do it.
So, we got a new month starting tomorrow. That means we're ending a poll and we're starting a new poll.
All right.
Juice, why don't you round out this month's poll? You chose the topic and the 3 movies. What were they?
All right, so this is the last day of January, so it should be closing out, and this was my pick. This is something new we are doing this year. Each month, we will each get our own pick, which means we get to pick all 3 movies in the poll. I went first, and I chose thrillers, and I chose 7, Old Boy, and No Country for Old Mangs. And Bob, how's that going to close out?
Old Boy's going to take it.
Old Bish is the winner. He has been on top the whole month. So, no surprise there.
No
Bob,
surprise.
do you want to go ahead and announce what next month's poll's going to be?
Absolutely.
What's it going to be, Bob?
Our March poll pick theme is going to be adult animated horror movies.
Whoa. Triple X adult, right, Bob? That's what we're
Triple-
talking.
That's not really what we're going for, but just shit.
We're going for the Rule 34 audience this week.
I don't know what that is.
18 plus for these.
I don't know what that is. Do you want to enlighten me, or should we just continue? Is it fucked up? Rule 34? I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, it's now one of the oldest memes on the web, which says that if you can imagine a pornography drawn of it, it will be made. And it's primarily people doodling non-sexual characters in really explicit positions.
Gotcha.
It's no bueno for me, but no kink shame.
No
People
kink
doing
shame?
their kooky arts. So
Let us know all
power
about
to
it in
them.
Hotline
As a man who
Games.
once draw Goofy with a rad kicking male bod, I don't really have much to say on the subject. You guys remember that one? That was one of my favorites.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
You still got
No.
it?
Goofy had a kicking humanoid bod. Oh yeah,
Throw it up
it's
on the
it's
Slack.
on the gram, Insta.
Is it? All right, nice.
Oh yeah, we'll do it.
All right.
Yeah, Rule
So-
34, baby.
We're talking about adult animated horror movies for the month of March, and the 3 movies you're going to be able to vote between are Akira, Forbidden Planet, and Wicked City.
Okay, I can't ask you how those numbers look because it's not live yet.
True.
So that will be live by time you are listening to this cast, probably,
Yeah,
right?
most likely. It'll
Yeah.
go live March. No, February 1st.
February
Go live February 1st. And that's up on our Patreon website. It is exclusive to our Patreon members. If you want to vote, support us at the $5 level or above, and you will be able to do that. And you'll get some stickers and a shouts outs, all kinds of cool shit on our Patreon website.
Nice.
Speaking of other cool shit on our Patreon website, if you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to exclusive content that is only available on Patreon. We've been releasing a shitload of mini casts. I think we're pushing 30 on there now, and if you do sign up, you get you get emailed an RSS feed that you can drop into your podcatcher of choice and listen to all of those bonus episodes on Spotify or Google Play or wherever you listen to your podcast. You don't have to listen to them. Just
We out here just data mining our own brains for you fools.
Yeah.
Get on our Patreon.
Yeah,
Bob, what is
Just
your podcast?
suck the marrow straight from our opinions.
I just listen to Apple Podcasts usually.
Okay, that's Bob's podcatcher.
I'm really
Randy?
I'm really more of a pod pitcher myself.
I believe it.
Randy, you're so nasty. But anyway, dropping tomorrow on our Patreon website. Juice, you got a mini cast. What are you talking about?
New mini cast for the hashtag Hard with the Squad. This is going to be about the new Netflix docuseries Night Stalker. This is something that came out just a couple weeks ago, and it is pretty solid. It oh god, I am blanking on the name.
Richard Ramirez?
Ramirez. Thank you. Richard Ramirez killing people in the mid-'80s out in L.A., also known as Night Stalker, and just...
la-dee-da.
Yeah, it's pretty much the hunt for him. They focus more on the cops that were kind of chasing him, the detectives, and their kind of experience with it, but they do go into some surprisingly gruesome details about the murders themselves, and I'm talking about like crime scene photos and stuff. So it's it was interesting. There was a lot of details that I was not aware of. He's a pretty like famous serial killer like in America, but there were some details and aspects that weren't included in his overall like trials that involved like children in a way, because ultimately they knew they were going to get a conviction on the murders themselves, and so they just didn't pursue it. So yeah, but they go into like detail about this, even in just the murders, it's some of the darkest stuff I've ever seen or heard. It's terrible, honestly. So that's going up on our.
Yay!
I am reviewing just the docuseries. Yes, I'm reviewing.
Makes
the
perfect sense to make him a character in fucking American Horror Story.
Yeah, that shit, 1984, was pretty cool for the most part, but I did not like that they brought him into that series.
I agree,
for some reason.
actually.
Why? There's no need. There's plenty going on. They had
My
a serial
first reaction
killer.
was like, oh, weird, cool. But then, like, after a minute of thinking about it, you're like, yeah, but fucking people died because of this fuck. Do we really want to be doing this?
And they had, like, they created a slasher. They already had a villain, and then they just brought him in for. It's like, what the hell? Why?
Now we
Because
are
American Horror Story
reviewing-
is never. American Horror Story is just never
Sorry.
content to stick to one track. They have to go in every possible direction at all times.
True.
I don't get it.
Bit of a tangent.
But I did kind of like that season overall. Anyway,
I agree,
different
yeah.
conversation.
So in other Patreon news, we do have one new brand new Patreon supporter we got to give some shouts outs to. A big thank you to Justin G for signing up and showing us some love on Patreon. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. We really do appreciate it. It helps us keep the lights on. And as always, around these parts, we owe Justin G the old straight chilling salute. This one is for Justin. Slap me in the ass. All right. That's all we got for Patreon. Juice, you got YouTube stuff?
Yep. One more thing for housekeeping. We are headed into a new month. So by the time you're listening to this, it should be February, and that means we have a new Top 5 Tuesday coming up. First Tuesday of every month, we have a new YouTube video popping up, a Top 5 list. This month, it's going to be Top 5 Japanese horror films. So we've covered a couple different, or maybe Korea so far on the Top 5 list on YouTube, but on February, I guess, 2nd, we will be dropping a new YouTube video. That's some exclusive content on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/straight chilling podcast. And we announced it last week, but again, something we are doing that might be kind of special for this week. This is a new movie that we're covering this week, Synchronic. And so for all of our new YouTube videos, the behind the scenes and the regular podcast, we will have a link to buy these movies in Amazon if you are interested in purchasing this physical media.
And you should be.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that link will be at the top of the description in all of our new videos so far. So if you are interested in picking up Synchronic, it'll be there for you.
Yeah. If you want to pick it up, there's also an alternate ending included on the disc and a commentary by the directors/writers. We'll talk about that alternate ending here.
Yeah, we watched it literally like 5 minutes before you called in because we were like, "Oh shit, we didn't know about this."
Yeah, what's that about?
It's real quick. It's real quick.
Yeah,
I'm out of the loop.
We got you.
I'm just going to talk about Bordello of Blood again.
Yeah, that follows. Cool. I think that's all we got. I believe this house is clean.
This house is clean.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into the main event. We're talking about Synchronic, and we're going to kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Well, I do have it right here.
I know you got that box, Bob.
I got it.
Is there anything?
Do you have the slipcase, Rob? Rob,
I do.
the slipcase.
Thank
God.
Thank the Blu-ray god.
I thought you were going to have to burn it.
No, I got it. So yeah, Synchronic just came out this year, starring Anthony Mackie and Jamie Dornan. Old Jamie Dornan. The plot synopsis is as follows. When New Orleans paramedics and longtime best friends Steve and Dennis are called to a series of bizarre, gruesome accidents, they chalk it up to the mysterious new party drug found at the scene. But after Dennis's oldest daughter suddenly disappears, Steve stumbles upon a terrifying truth about the supposed psychedelic that will challenge everything he knows about reality and the flow of time itself. Gasp. There you go.
I did like you asked.
General Mangs, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy?
No. I don't think I was aware of this movie at all. If I was, it was very, very loosely, maybe just from like side convos or whatever. But I did watch the trailer in advance, and I was pretty stoked to watch it. And having now seen it, I would say that that the trailer is not one-to-one what you're going to get. But I would say that it's a pretty fair assessment of the movie, considering what they have to conceal and what they have to show about what the movie's about. So I would say if you like the trailer, you'll probably like the movie. All right.
Cool. Juice, what about you?
I remember talking about this movie being made when we covered their last film, which was pretty new at the time, The Endless. Because I remember we were like, "Oh, the Falcon's gonna be in it. That's a big actor. He's in the MCU and shit." So,
Mr. Falcon,
Mr. Falcon,
Mr.
So I was aware of it. It's pretty new, so I hadn't seen it before. I watched it this week and watched it with a little Thin Mint Cream, talking about a little screaming and creaming real quick.
Ooh,
on the Instagram.
True.
Now I'm
very true.
Yeah, just a little plug there. But I know last year we were covering new movies and we kept putting out this caveat like, there's not a lot of new movies getting released this year. So, some movies that felt pretty medium got a little bump maybe because of that. I anticipate, hopefully, I'm hoping by the end of 2021, when this year is wrapping up and we're making our top 10 list, I anticipate that this movie will mostly be forgotten Like, and that's it's fine. Like, it's good enough, but I don't think it's gonna have a distinct impression on me by the time this year's done. And I don't anticipate it making my top 10. I could be wrong.
You're a monster.
Possibly, I could be wrong. I'm not. So, but it was okay. It was fine. It was an okay way to kick off the year. But I wouldn't say it's a must watch by any means.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it. Bob, what do you think?
I think I feel similarly. This movie, like if we're talking top 10 of this year, whatever that's going to look like, hopefully we get a lot more new releases than we did last year. But this is probably not going to make my top 10 either, if I had to guess. It might be like an honorable mention because I think it's worth watching, especially if you like time travel movies. Like if you've seen the other Benson Moorhead movies and you're into those, I think you'll like this. It's as far as I understand, like all of their movies are supposed to exist in like the same sort of shared universe. Like you don't really have like repeat characters or anything like that, but they play around with like time travel quite a bit in their movies, and they all sort of exist and play by the same rules. So if you like those, you'll probably like this. So yeah, I would recommend it. Yeah, but it's probably not going to blow your mind in half or anything.
I have a quick question. I don't know if you guys can answer this or not. So this movie just came out in wide release, I guess. But I see a lot of places it listed as being a 2019 film. Is that?
Yeah. So
is that just because it was delayed, or what, do we know what the deal is with that?
Yeah, I think it was originally supposed to come out last fall, I want to say. But also, like that 2019 number, like whenever you reference IMDb, usually the year it says that it came out is like the year it premiered at film festivals and isn't necessarily its wide release date.
Right.
So, like, yeah, I think this was available wide on VOD maybe a month ago, and it just got a physical release this last Tuesday. So it's now wide and easy to find for everybody.
Well, time makes fools of us all.
Yeah, time keeps on slipping into the future, you know.
Time
Fucking
goes by and it goes on.
We are just connecting dots now.
Time.
By the way, I think this movie will get there.
How many songs have the word time in it?
This is a free association podcast now.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. You guys kept talking about if this might not make your top 10. I don't know. Like, I can't even begin to guess because last year was such an anomaly, and I'm not sure that we'll recover from that anomaly in time for the end of the year. But whether or not we do, like, I think this would have stood a pretty good chance last year of making my top 10.
Yeah.
In 2020.
Yeah, it would have hovered. I'm thinking it would have hovered.
I'm not thinking too hard about that, but I feel like with I had like 4 or 5 new movies that didn't make the list, period. So I feel like it's a shallow pool to pick from. I think out of the dog shit that was left behind, this would definitely at least be middling. You know,
it has a shot, but it still would have been toward the back end, even for last year.
It wouldn't have been top 5 for me, but I think it could have made the top 10.
Yeah,
maybe
clinch a number 9 or 8 spot. Maybe
we're basically reviewing this thing now. Let's go on in.
Yeah. So that sounds like a pretty decent recommend across the board from us. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning, and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right. I do have a plot synopsis typed up here. It's pretty short.
Is it cleaner than last week, Bob?
Yeah, last week was...
Keep it clean, Rob. This is a family
difficult.
fucking podcast, all right?
It is not.
Piece of shit.
Your rule 43 or whatever the fuck.
Oh, my...
Oh.
Nothing makes me feel more like a sex pest than just being honest on this podcast.
Yeah, actually was just saying the same thing. I was like, Randy's our deviant for sure. Mr. Chatterbait, Mr. Rule
I'm sorry that I'm aware of the world.
Sexy,
you guys enjoy your bubbles. I'm going to live in the goddamn real world.
I'm just being real. They call me Real Randy over here.
Ah, you two chaste gentlemen who have never touched a beaner, even your own.
Oh. Bob, how about that plot synopsis?
Yeah. So here is the full plot synopsis for Synchronic. We got Steve and Dennis, two paramedics working in present-day New Orleans. There's a new designer drug called Synchronic that's causing many locals to die in gruesome ways. Steve eventually connects the drug to these violent deaths and buys out the remaining supply of Synchronic to keep people from consuming it. Dennis's daughter takes Synchronic one night with her friends, and she ends up going missing. The doctor that created the drug breaks into Steve's house one night trying to retrieve the drugs that he bought out. Steve catches him. The doctor then tells Steve the drug allows people to experience time as it really is and not in the linear fashion humans typically experience time. Steve ends up taking the drug and travels back in time for 7 minutes. He takes the drug several more times in different locations around his home, and he is performing like a kind of bunch of experiments to see exactly how this drug works. He's sent to different times, different eras in history, and he eventually realizes Dennis's daughter must be stuck back in time wherever she traveled to. He tells Dennis all this, and he sets out to find and retrieve Dennis's daughter. He does so, and in the process of doing that, he gets stuck back in time and is unable to come home because he runs out of Synchronic. The end. All right, let's talk about this movie.
Please.
In my opinion, this has a cool premise, and I was intrigued. The problem is, I think the first, 10, 15 minutes of this movie have the best visualization of this idea. And then also the most like intriguing aspect where it's kind of this big mystery about it, where you start off with these kind of this younger couple. They take it in a hotel. One guy, he goes into the elevator. His girlfriend stays in the bed, and they both go to these different places in time. He's heading to this desert, and he's kind of, since he's in an elevator, he's like falling through the sky. She goes to this jungle. There's like a snake and a guy with a spear. And to me, like, that was the most intriguing aspect of this, where the guy ultimately, he ends up like falling down the elevator shaft and just coming apart, and she gets a snake bite, is freaking out in her room. And then as paramedics, our two main characters, they also explore another house that we don't see the visualizations of it, but also the mystery and intrigue of, they go into this house where they think people are just drugged out, and one guy has been stabbed with this like a spear or something, or like a crazy pirate sword. And then it's like a sword. Yeah, and then they go to a theme park where somebody has been like burned up completely, and they're holding like a door handle, an old timey looking like door handle or something. Those were the, like, for this idea, how this movie ultimately plays out, and the idea itself of the time travel is fine, but I felt like the best parts to me of that idea and the visualization of it all really came in this like first 15 minutes. The rest of it fell pretty flat for me, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Like the concept behind it, like the idea that you go back in time for 7 minutes in a unspecified time based on your physical location. Like I like all of that. Like I like the general rules, but two things stick out to me. One is that some of those rules seem to be played a little fast and loose later on, and when your movie hinges so much on it, it's like the Quiet Place sort of thing, where like they're hinging a lot on the exposition that they've given on how this works. And some of it doesn't quite align for me, but we'll get to that eventually. And then the other thing is that I don't know that the actual, like, the human story being told doesn't seem to resonate with the concept at all to me. Like the idea that Anthony Mackie is in this movie as he's our lead. We're following him around. He's having two major issues. One is that he's, like, I don't know what, in his 40s or something. He's middle-aged, right? And he feels like he's jealous of his partner, his friend, because he has a family. His friend just complains about his family all the time, but he wants nothing more than just like to settle down with somebody and have a family of his own, but he's never been able to make that happen. So there's that. And then on top of that, he has a Heisenberg moment where he finds out he has a giant brain tumor and has a limited amount of time to live, theoretically. So, and that doesn't really come up like beyond it being sort of like used later on at one pivotal moment. It seems like it doesn't factor into the story all that much. But anyway, all
Not
that to say, like,
emotionally, not
yeah,
as
exactly. It
emotional
doesn't.
like you would think it would.
There's no like correlate. There's no resonance between going back in time to undisclosed locations in history or undisclosed points in time in history and his specific challenges, his specific story arc. And that's what really bothered me, is that the arc that he has, I mean, it makes sense in these are things that happened to this guy sort of way, like in a very linear, weirdly, a very linear sense. And based on the trailer, based on everything that I thought I understood about what this movie was going to be, I thought it was going to be way more out there, way more like challenging to follow, way more time jumpy. And it was time jumpy, but they clearly define where things begin and end. So that it's not like it's not like watching a David Lynch movie where you're like, whoa, what is this supposed to mean? It's just like, okay, this is that. And that's that. And things are just kind of presented as they are, but they don't really resonate with our main character. And that was the thing that really weirded me out. It's like, okay, I mean, I get that this guy, the only reason this guy seems to have a brain tumor is because it allows him to travel back in time because it affects his pineal gland in a very specific way that makes him more like a young person in his pineal gland specifically. And that's what allows this time travel to happen. That's why adults aren't having this effect, but people who are younger are, people on the younger end of the spectrum, 18-ish and below.
Yeah,
so like
the
other than that, there's no reason for it. I don't know.
The daughter only gets lost because she's young, and he's only able to go back and get her because he's got this special condition where his pineal gland has not calcified in a normal way, like in a normal adult. So
right.
that's fine. The problem, they play it, in my opinion, too straight. You're right. They give you these very distinct rules, and that's okay, except they break them. And their own rules that they spend so much of just this middle section of this movie establishing and making sure you understand. Like, they're not confusing to me, but it completely ruins the last third of the movie, because everything that they set you up for, like, these are the rules of how this works, they throw out the fucking door. Like it doesn't. They don't follow their.
Should we
own
get into
rules.
that now? Yeah, I mean, because there are definitely some moments. It sounds like you maybe have a more pointed condition on that than I do.
I think so, but I mean,
it seems sort of like unclear how he actually finds Dennis's daughter, because he goes back. Yeah. He goes back to the house where they're having a party, and she ends up taking the Synchronic. And one of the girls was at the party, and she's like, "Yeah, last time I saw her, she was sitting in that chair over there, and that's when she took the Synchronic." So Steve gets in the chair, he pops the drug, and he goes back in time, and he can't find her. And then he talks to the friend again. She's like, "Well, I mean, she could have walked off. I don't really know where she ended up going." So like, we have no idea. She could be anywhere in the city, having taken this drug and like gone back in time. And he just thinks that there's this like boulder that has the word "always" carved into the side of it, that's sort of like focused on prominently throughout the movie. And he has a random hunch that maybe she went to that boulder, and that's where she tripped. Yeah. So he goes there, and is, I guess, just so happens to guess correctly that is the spot.
Rigatoni.
So like, how the hell he knows that, I don't, but he
that's what I would have carved into that rock.
Rigatoni.
Where's Randy? Oh shit, this rock says Rigatoni over here.
This is a significant rock. If you ever see the word Rigatoni carved into something ancient, know that I was back in time.
Randy's been here, but when?
Oh my lord.
So yeah, I don't know. So he saves her. It feels like very, very loose and random in the way that this movie ends. And I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of unsatisfactory. And like, why did like she did not actually carve always in the rock.
Yeah, I guess.
So I guess he did. But then why would he do that? Why did he carve always and misspell it?
I didn't assume
Like,
that
what is
even
the
he
significance?
did. I don't.
Yeah, that's
I
the
don't know.
problem.
Don't-
Here's the problem with the ending of this movie and the way that they set it up. This guy spends the whole middle section of the movie doing experiments to establish the rules. To the point where he's in his house, and if you stand on this X, you go back to the Ice Age. He goes back to the Ice Age, and he does it twice. Okay, if I stand this exact spot, where you are standing has a very specific correlation to what time you go back, because then he moves over to his couch just a couple feet away, and it's a completely different time. Okay, so they establish this. So the ending is bullshit in a lot of ways because, yeah, he goes to the house and falls through the sky. She's got to get back to a tree, and she's not there. And so the girl's like, yeah, maybe, like, I don't know, maybe she walked off. Okay, so literally any spot, you have to be within a 1x1 square.
Where did it kick
to
in?
find her? Yeah.
Because the empty package was on the chair.
But the thing is, the problem is they think about it. So he goes to his dad and he's like, okay, here's the conundrum.
Yep.
So if you were your daughter, what would you do? And he's like, I'd write a message. Okay, well, there's this rock that she sat on before. And there's happens to be a message there. It says always, spelled wrong. So he goes there, and she just so happens to be here. Now, here's another problem I have with that. Now, hang on. Let me finish that thought. But then, yeah, she's like, I didn't carve the message. So it's like, okay, well, that entire conversation with the dad and this hunch, it's all bullshit. Why? Why?
Now, here's the thing. I will defend to a certain point the decision to have her have left from that point. Now, I don't like the fact that the empty package was on the chair is annoying to me because it kind of contradicts this a little bit.
That's
because
true.
you don't open a package you don't open a pill and then not immediately take it usually.
Yeah, let me open this pill, hold it in my palm, and walk down to the rock.
A few blocks at least. I don't know how far they are away. So anyway, like she goes down to this rock. This rock is not significant to her except that she was sitting on it earlier. She seemed to enjoy the view. It was a way of separating herself from her family, which she felt distant from in some way, but we don't really explore that very much. And then so I don't know, the spot being significant to her and her dad understanding that, even if he doesn't really understand why, like even if it's ascribed to something wrong, I mean, that makes a kind of sense. But the fact that the ascribing it to being like, he would carve something. Where have we seen something carved? At the rock. Like that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like that they would just guess right. Like you're talking about finding somebody not just on the planet Earth, not just in a city, not just in a county, not just in an area. You're talking about through the entire history of time, and you cannot control what time you're in except by guessing where to go in order to take that trip. And
it's very specific. Like
if they had said, like, where would you go if you were where do you think your daughter? You know what she was going through. You spoke to her that afternoon, and she seemed morose. Can you tell me where you think she would go if she was feeling despondent or if she was, and that would make sense. But instead they make this thing that's just so Anthony Mackie can go back in time and be like, oh, we saw the message you left. And she goes, what the fuck are you talking about? Just so they can have this moment of like, wow, what a coinky dink. Like, that's not how you want to end your fucking movie.
Well, and here's another problem I had with it. Okay, here's another problem. Every time the old Falcon goes back in time, he gets himself into some trouble, and that's fine. And it was, he falls down through a tree, and he comes to these woodsmen or tribesmen,
witch doctors,
or something, who chase him up the tree or whatever. They think he's a spirit. He gets caught in a KKK member's house, in the 20s or something. He gets caught in the Ice Age where he has to build a fire and meets a a hunter or whatever. Okay, that's fine.
Conquistador guy.
But here's the problem I have.
The conquistador in the swamp. Yeah,
the daughter has been missing for days. Like,
Right.
not an hour, not two, like days. She's been missing for days. And when he finds her, she's in a war zone. A war zone. And he happens to stumble upon her in a trench where, assumedly, she's just been crouching and hiding for days in
Well,
the
that's another
past,
question, too,
surviving.
isn't it? That's another question on top of your question, which is, if like take for example, let's just for ease, let's go to the example of the Ice Age, because he goes to that location twice. The first time he goes, he sees the Neanderthal in the distance coming towards him and then disappears before he gets too close. The second time, the Neanderthal is a little bit closer. So are you going back? Is the point in time that you're traveling to moving concurrent to like the time that we're in now? Like that's a question that they don't really go into. And you know, to their credit, a lack of exposition about how this works is not the problem with this movie for me overall.
True, yeah.
But if we're going to get into it and if you're going to hinge on it, that seems like something that you got to explain, because yeah, was she there for days, or was she there? Did she just run away from that rock a second before he appeared back in time? Was it like Back to the Future where he like comes back to that moment in time, or does he go back to that moment in time with the adjustment of how many days it's been since she went back from that moment and from that spot? Like, there's a lot of little idiosyncratic things that you want to like get your fucking fingers into a little bit if you're really going to really make the lore of how this works the central focus.
I guess here's how I see it and how the movie explains it best, I guess. Or I don't know. It's like, okay, so if the daughter stood on that rock and she went back in time, okay, but the problem is you have to be standing in that same exact spot 7 minutes later. So time progresses through the camcorder, and time progresses also back in time at the same speed because he checks it with his watch. Okay, so 7 minutes go by. That's how he times. If you're not in the same spot, 7 minutes go by in both times, then you get left behind. So this girl gets left behind days ago, okay?
Yeah.
Where time seems to move at the same time. She runs away and goes and hides in a trench and is there for days. And then he comes back, and let's just say he even comes back to the same time where she originally came back. Well, the problem is like the whole explanation is that time has moved forward for her. So even if he came back at the same time where she arrived, because she wasn't in the spot, time has moved forward. And so by their own explanation, she should have been there several days,
I guess. And then the other thing is, like, at that point, they don't even explain this. They just make it so Anthony gives her a piece of, like, gives her a drug, like one of the pills.
Synchronic.
And that's I know. I didn't know how to phrase that for whatever reason. But he finds her in this ditch, in this trench, and he's like, okay, here, take this. But why? Like, won't that like, how does that is it a one-way trip now? It goes forward now? Like, what are we fucking doing? What are we doing?
I guess at that point, like, you would go anywhere. Like, you wouldn't necessarily just go back to your normal time, right? If you took the drug when you were already back in time, like, wouldn't it just take you fucking anywhere again? Like, why would it?
Exactly. Wouldn't it take you further back to some other undisclosed, unknowable part of time?
No,
right?
This is the one experiment he did when he got caught in the KKK guy's house. The way that he got back is he took the pill again and went back to his same spot where he had arrived. Okay. So it was like a doorway. So they did explain it. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Yeah, they did. He kept.
Okay, I didn't see him take another pill. I guess
he did. He took it because he was talking to his dog, and he's like, "Okay, I have blank minutes or whatever," and he took it while he was in the woods waiting for the guy to leave his house, and then he like ran in the house and he was like sitting in the couch like, okay, I'm waiting for my 7 minutes to go up, and that's when the whole dog like broke loose and he lost his tongue. Now here's the problem with that though too. Here's the problem with that. He sets up a whole experiment that is successful where he is holding on to a living being, his dog, and successfully takes it back in time. And the only reason the experiment fucked up the second time is because he was not holding the dog. He was holding the leash, but he wasn't holding the dog. So theoretically, again, by the explanation of this fucking movie, these writers, if she had taken the pill and he had just like, he got rid of the slave or whatever, if she had just held on to him, they would have traveled back together.
You're right. I would say one possible explanation for that, which I don't ascribe to as being a good explanation, but is the idea that he already has it in his system. He could take her theoretically, but if they get separated and he knows this works, then that's a way that he can ensure that she goes even if he doesn't. So if he, like, you know, I know that they're in a war zone, whatever, like all that. I don't know. The thing is, like, this is magical stuff we're talking about here, but it's play acting as science. And when you do that, there's a certain level of like realism you need to adhere to. And it varies different based on each movie or whatever. But in this case, it feels like they didn't really account for everything. This thing takes you to a random point in time. So they introduce randomness as a concept in how this works, but it's not really random. He figures out how it works in like just a few goes. And I don't know, like it feels too convenient to me that, I figured out that I can take this pill and go back to the future this way. Or like, I don't know. It really feels like if you're going to have this randomness element in there, like this chaos theory bullshit, you can't then just have it be sort of like on a tether. You know what I mean? It feels like people trying to play volleyball with a tether ball. It just doesn't track to me. And the thing is, like, I can forgive a lot of that stuff. I really can. A lot of like the inconsistencies, the logical inconsistencies or whatever, I can forgive that if there is a metaphor or if there is some sort of story element intertwined with it that makes it function, makes the way it functions important. But I don't see that in this movie. I don't see any reason to forgive these issues, because I don't see any reason for these issues to exist in absence of an actual like story arc for this character that relates to the story that's happening in front of us. It's just like, I don't know, like, again, it seems random that he's just the guy that's doing this, and like, because his life is in shambles for X, Y, and Z, but none of that really factors in except for his frame of mind, period. And even that, it's kind of like, if you like, the only reason for him to do this is because of the pineal gland. If that's the case, just have him go in for a checkup and have the doctor be like, well, you're not in the best shape anymore, but weirdly, your pineal gland is like great. It's like a teenager's. And I guess, like, I don't know. It just seems like there's nothing adhering the character to the plot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I do want to talk about some other aspects of this movie, though, and not just like the inner workings of the time travel and all that. I don't know, like, you guys know me, I fucking love the city of New Orleans, and this is very much set in New Orleans. I think they use that to their advantage quite a bit, and there's a lot of really neat set pieces here. Like, Justin, you already mentioned the like abandoned theme park that they go to, which is really in New Orleans, and it's creepy as fuck when you drive by it. I like that they incorporate that. There's also a little bit of like Hurricane Katrina involved here. Yeah, in the plot where one of the characters loses their mother and his mother,
sister? His father, and his
sister.
Yeah,
his little sister when she's a child.
And they
the coffins rise, right?
Yeah, the coffins rise, and he's got to like identify the bodies, which is pretty gruesome. And I think that's sort of haunting him, and Steve is like dealing with that, and that's probably why he's abusing drugs and alcohol throughout this movie. He's just sort of like wrestling with that. There's also like this voodoo doctor character, and he like breaks his leg. He's got a compound fracture, and the paramedics roll up to set his leg and get him in the ambulance, and he's just like full on taunting them, and you can't understand what he's saying, but he's got like paint on his face, and he's wearing all this like crazy outfit, and he's just like laughing hysterically at like Steve and Dennis, and they're having like this real like difficult moment in the movie, and they end up coming to blows. They actually like get in a fight, and this dude is just like laughing in their faces. It's like really effective and creepy and like uncomfortable, like this sequence. So I don't know. I think I say all that to say that I think they use the city in the setting very effectively.
I think that's fair to say. I did like a lot of the New Orleans aspects in it, and I'm kind of split on, because of the way the time travel works. Part of me is like annoyed that they keep going back to times. It's very specific. Like when he goes back in time, it's just like one time it's to the Ice Age in that one spot. But how many millions of years was that fucking Ice Age? And you just happen to the rest of the time go back to moments in relatively recent history. You know what I mean? You're going back to the 1800s. You're not going back to BC, like 2000 BC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. What,
Except
the
for that one time.
conquistadors? That was probably around like, what, 1650?
It's over a span of like 400 years.
Yeah,
of
sure.
human history.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Dude, the one dude did go back to the desert, so
Yeah.
they did at least give you that.
Yeah, I guess so. The thing is,
Or
like,
go
it's not
to a
it's,
desert.
It's just like to me, it's like there's always a person around somehow. There's always
Or
something.
the fucking woolly mammoth, which is kind of cool to see.
I thought that was
the
cool. Look, I
alligator.
was stoked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, visually and like story wise, I get it. Like you don't want to go back to an Ice Age 30 times. You want to go to a bunch of different times and explore like the different, like him interacting with, Jim Crow South, him interacting with fucking the Spanish settlers, him interacting with the fucking Neanderthals, like that. Those are more engaging. So on that level, I get it. But it's just like with that time travel element, like if it's going to be random, then random means random, man. You don't get to like caveat that if you're going to be. And the thing is, like, I don't know. It all, again, I'm just going to start repeating myself because it all kind of hinges on whether or not there's a reason for his story to go the way that it's going, for him to be adhered to this story about this method of time travel. But yeah, I don't know. And as far as the New Orleans stuff, I loved seeing the different like parts of New Orleans. I loved it as a viewer. And like just to see like, oh, okay, so this spot, I was this thing and this thing and this thing all at the same time. But it's like, but we don't see it that way because our time is linear to us. That's cool and all, but it doesn't like, I don't know. It doesn't work for me in tandem with everything else.
I like we don't get much of this character, but there's the Dr. Kermani character who invents this drug.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of him.
Yeah, he's only in a couple scenes. And when we first see him, he's trying to buy all the drugs off Steve because like there's a very limited batch left, and he's I guess unable to make any more. He said it was supposed to be sort of like a DMT type of drug that you could just go buy in the store for a little while, anyways. And he's the one that really explains initially how like this drug lets people experience like time the way that it really is. And he holds up a record and he's like, you see this record, you only listen to one song at a time, but they're all there next to each other always, And I thought that was kind of like a neat way to explain like how time it really is. Like it's not linear.
It's a flat circle, is what you're saying.
It's a flat circle. That's exactly right.
Excuse me.
Bless you,
Randy.
sweet
Oh,
child.
thank you. Thank you.
I had a couple other problems that doesn't have to do with the time in this that I would like to bring up because Randy, you weren't on the episode where we covered the Endless. Tammy was a guest on that. I think you were traveling, maybe. But I
have seen it.
I have a problem with these guys, and this has come up in this.
They look dumb.
Well, maybe, but it also happens to come up in this movie too. I feel like they're tight in some areas and sloppy in some areas, and there are moments in this where we're talking about where it lacked the impact that it could have had. Where it just seemed like sloppy filmmaking to me, just like from a craft standpoint. And so I'd like to touch on some of those. One of them was they try to make it significant and like hint to the idea of the theme. But in my mind, I was really trying to focus on it. Me and Bob watched it together and we were kind of like tossing ideas around. But they even in the current time, so not when people are traveling back in time, but when we are exploring the relationship of these two like best friends, you find out maybe halfway through the movie that the scenes that we are seeing are not necessarily themselves in chronological order. And they tease with a little idea of like, oh, what time are we actually in? What has happened so far that we've seen? What happened first? What happened second? What happened third? But even that didn't seem to have any significance. And at one point, I thought they were trying to track it based on the colors, because we had just gotten like a hint of it, that things weren't necessarily chronological. And in the very next scene, there was this very distinct color pattern of like this yellow color while the dude was sitting in his house. And I was like, Bob, maybe they're trying to track it by like color. Like if you're in this color, you're in this time. If you're in this color, you're in this time. And then I watched it the rest of the movie. That was like at the beginning of the second, third, and they didn't. As far as I could tell, they didn't. It just seemed like another thing they wanted to add in there to make it seem mysterious and make it seem significant. But as far as I could tell, and I was like really trying to hone in and pay attention, it didn't have any significance whatsoever.
Are you talking about the color grading? What do you mean yellow?
No, I'm mainly talking about what my main critique.
Yeah.
Is that they give you this thing to where, oh, guess what? Everything that we're seeing between these two best friends, our two main characters, is not necessarily chronologically in order. They jump around. And so they tease you with the idea like you don't actually know what has happened up to this scene that you're watching, because they jump around. And they make it seem like it's significant. Like, why are we jumping around? Why are we seeing these things out of order? And I thought they were trying to track it based on the color, because once they do that kind of reveal, like, oh, this isn't chronologically in order, the very next scene, there's a very distinct yellow color grading on the guy while he's sitting in his house. And I leaned over to Bob and I was like, hey, maybe they're trying to track time based on color, like a hint to the viewer, like, oh, if it's this yellow color.
That.
Yeah. So, but they, as far as I understand, in the filmmaking of this film and the craft of this film, that didn't have actually any significance on the story or the characters to make that choice, to make that stylistic choice of the time jumping.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but in you talking about that, it did make me think about this, which is the fact that it does jump around. It doesn't jump around so much as to be incomprehensible by any means. Like, this is a very easy to understand movie. I feel like you don't jump ahead to him, to Anthony Mackie, like in the past, or like, you don't, like, if you do, it's like little flashes, if anything. You're just kind of like jumping around from time to time. But in that way, I think there is some correlation to the story, which is, I think that ties into the time travel aspect, because it's, the whole thing is Synchronic is the name of the movie. The idea that time is happening concurrently. You know what I mean? So
it's just
the idea that time wouldn't be linear in a movie about time not being linear makes sense to me.
It's consistent with the theme of the movie. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
I think
in and of itself, I don't have a problem with that. But in terms of like other little nitty gritties, I have problems with that too.
Yeah. As far as the coloring goes, I don't know. You might have just been reading too much into that scene.
No, I was. And my problem isn't with the coloring and it didn't track it that way. My problem is that choice, like, while it might have been like, okay, thematically, like, okay, that's how they explain time to you, it didn't have any significance on the story or like the characters. It didn't service in a way that mattered. I guess it literally was just a stylistic choice that made you think it was going to have some significance. And as far as I don't know, man,
I think it had significance.
It did,
like not the color part aspect. No,
the color, the time. So forget about the color.
But the chronologic thing,
completely forget about the color.
The fact that it's not chronological, I think, is thematically appropriate.
Yeah, but it does
I don't think that it's
I think what Justin is really getting at is it does not affect the plot. There is no plot development,
true.
But it is thematically consistent.
Yeah, it's thematically consistent, but it didn't serve us in a way to say like, here's a reveal about the character that you didn't know because it was out of time, or here's like something. It didn't like matter other than, okay, that's how time works in their theme, so like it can work in this movie too. Like, oh, that okay.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with that personally. Like, to me, that's like,
it's kind of
if anything, I would say if you're gonna have it be time is not linear, chronology is a flat circle and everything happens concurrently. If you're gonna have that, then stick to that. Show us some things that are going to happen later on, like, and have the context of it be filled in as we go. And it doesn't really do that. And like that's
I guess that's what I'm saying.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah,
okay, all right.
it didn't matter to our characters or to the story. It literally was just a choice that they made.
Yeah. Like a contextless shot of Anthony Mackie in a trench, like huddled up or the girl Brianna in a trench at some point. Like, and then like they do this a few times, which I really like. I really enjoyed these smash cuts. Some of the smash cuts they had of Anthony Mackie, like where he's like, just for example, I don't remember if this is specifically what happens, but he's in like the doctor's office holding his head being like, holy shit, I can't believe I have cancer. And then it bounces with that exact same blocking everything where his face is in the exact same position and holding his head, but in the back of the ambulance, a week earlier or whatever, and he's complaining about a headache or what, you know what I mean? Like that's the sort of thing like where it makes sense to me. It's like, okay, these same people are existing in different points in time. The things they're experiencing are concurrent. He's having the same pain. The context of the pain is different. Like that's the sort of thing I get. So show Brianna is Brianna, right? Whatever the girl's name.
Yeah, that's her name.
Brianna, show her in the trench or whatever, or sitting on the rock in a battlefield at the beginning of the movie, and have us be like, "Who is this? What the fuck is this battle? What like?" And then fill in the context later. Like that's a very bad example, but that sort of thing. I wish they had done a little more of that to maybe justify what you're describing as sort of like having no reason to do that. I think the reason is there, the like thematically, but it's not connecting. Like mentally it's not connecting. At least it didn't connect to me as being related to the timeline, the chronology issue. I don't know. It just didn't really like resonate with me as being relevant to what they're going through, or didn't really like, it didn't tell me the story of everything's happening at once. It just told me the story of like, oh, okay, now we're going here. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but I think we're kind of like describing the same thing in different ways. Yeah. But
I agree.
Yeah, overall, I don't know. The thing is, it just kind of falls. It falters in its adherence to principles that it itself then doesn't adhere to later.
Do you guys have anything else you want to mention before we rate this movie?
I guess the acting is good, I would say. I didn't realize that this is fucking Christian Grey, this white guy.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it is.
I found that out by looking up his name.
Oh, damn. I've never
one of the first things it
movies.
says is that he was dubbed the, quote, Golden Torso by the New York Times.
That's a weird
What a title.
Anytime I hear the word torso, I always just think of 13th Ghost and that torso. It just carries itself around in the hallway.
Okay, well, I mean,
that does explain why he kept wanting to like slap old Falcon's ass. Like he was really getting in there, just laying.
He's just really checking the oil.
Yeah, just whipping that ass, checking the oil.
Damn,
this here Falcon is well oiled. Let me tell you what.
Also, Anthony Mackie, though, I think he's great. And honestly, I had this thought in the movie where I was like, I feel like Anthony Mackie, when he's like an older man, like when he's like in his 60s, he's going to be like a fabulous character actor for moments where you need like a guy who's seen some shit. Like, you know what I mean? He's got the folksy way of talking while at the same time, like sort of like a been there, done that sort of vibe, especially in this movie. I don't know. I think he's going to be really like I don't know how long the MCU is going to go on or whatever, but like if it goes on forever, so let's say, and he's like an old man Captain America at some point, like I think he's going to be fucking great at that, as being like the guy who's seen some shit, the guy who has the folksy wisdom, who can lay it down for you. But I don't know. I that's a really weird thing, but I was like, the way he talks is the cadence of an older guy, and I feel like an older guy you could learn some shit from.
Keep it in your pants, Randy. Jeez.
I like the guy's acting. Fuck you.
He does a good job. I definitely agree with you. But let's go ahead and rate this thing. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? How you feel about Synchronic?
Okay. These guys, they have good ideas. I don't think they're capable of pulling them off. Like, it's never been seamless to me. Anytime I watch their movies, I think like, oh, there's some intriguing ideas here. There's usually some interesting visualizations, but I feel like they always fall flat for me. They don't, I don't know. They are not able to realize their ideas. It's almost like they have these scenes playing out in their mind and they work backwards from that, and they're not able to make them significant or mean what they're supposed to mean. They're good with ideas. They're not very good with characters, in my opinion, or actually fleshing their ideas out to make like something significant. It really just still feels like an idea. Like, what if somebody took a drug and they went back in time? Like, okay, let's make a movie about that. And that's all it feels like to me. It doesn't feel realized in these characters. The acting, and that's a shame too, because the acting is good. So the things I'll praise about this movie, the acting is good. And I thought there was a lot of potential with these characters, and with the struggles they set them up for were intriguing. And that's the problem, is there was plenty of meat on this bone to work with. This guy, I mean, the whole idea of setting this guy up, he's in his 40s. You know, he's got a best friend who complains about his family all the time. He wants a family, and now he's sick. There's so much to work with there. So much to work. And they killed it on both ends. Like, everybody played their role correctly, and it still didn't resonate with me. What they gave me just didn't matter to me. And that is so unfortunate, because too, again, that had a lot of potential with the characters that they set up and the actors that they chose to play them, and that fell flat. This idea was very intriguing to me. Going in the first 15 minutes, I was like, oh my God, like this pirate sword, this person caught on fire, this person falling through the sky into the desert. Like, those were all great visuals that set up this huge expectation for me. I was like, this is going to be sick. This is going to be a cool fucking movie. And it just wasn't. Like, it was okay at best. It feels like they pissed away a lot. And that's unfortunate. And I feel like they've done that several times for me now. These guys just aren't able to pull it off, in my opinion. So I'm going to give this movie a 2.5 out of 5.
2.5 from Juice. I'm going to jump in here real quick and spill my beans. I'm not quite as hard on it as you, Justin. I generally agree with all of your gripes. They set up a lot, and the ending definitely lacks the punch, the emotional punch that it's supposed to have. Like, this man's daughter's missing, and he's terrified. And his best friend helps get her back, and they definitely have a troubled relationship, and Steve's past is pretty fucked up and he's haunted by it, but I was never fully pulled into their friendship. So when they had struggles, I didn't really feel invested, and it didn't pull at my heartstrings at all. I was like, I don't know, they ain't seen that close. I guess they're fine, or whatever. And, you don't ever really get to know this dude's daughter. So, when she goes missing, you're like, okay, well, it's a character that I never knew that's gone. So, there's, nothing really going on there. And then in the end, the big climax with the war and all that, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense logically how they found her at all, or the significance of always being carved in the rock. What does it mean? Why is it misspelled? Who carved it? Also, if she was the person that was going to carve a message in the rock, wouldn't she be like, yo, this is Brianna, I am stuck in the year whatever the fuck? Not just some cryptic ass always, I don't know. It just doesn't logically make sense in the end. So it sets up a lot of cool ideas, and it does not fully flesh them out. However, I think the ride is fun and enjoyable, and it's cool to see the Falcon in this movie. I don't know that I've seen him in anything else, but he's a solid actor, and he's sort of doing these crazy time warp experiments with this designer drug, and it's just kind of a cool, fun ride, and I like it for that. Visually, I think the movie's pretty dope. They do a lot of really interesting camera movements. They have this one where Anthony Mackie walks out of a house after seeing a couple dead bodies, and he looks up at the sky, and the camera is zoomed in on his face, and it launches up in the air and does a backflip over the city of New Orleans and just shoots across the cityscape upside down. It just looks really neat. There's a lot of camera movement in this movie that I thought was pretty interesting. So technically, it's got some cool stuff going on. Overall, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Good, not great. Randy, how you feel?
Yeah, I'm pretty much resonating with what you guys are saying. I again, like the real issue for me, it seems to be pretty similar to what Justin has brought up, which is the idea that this is true of the Endless as well. I noticed. I haven't listened to your episode, so I don't know I know you guys didn't like it that much, based on your offhanded comments later. But I watched it knowing that, and I thought this isn't so bad. And the reason was because I thought the concept was cool. It's the same. It's the same thing where it's resonating on the level of the sci-fi conceptual idea is sound and interesting. And like Justin said, it seems like they worked backwards from that to try and make characters to just fit in this world. But they didn't make characters that like fit into that concept seamlessly. They didn't make characters that fit into that concept thematically. They're just characters who happen to be in that situation as a matter of happenstance, or it just doesn't. They don't tie together with what's happening to them. It's almost like a really like bare bones like comic book superpower that they happen upon, but there's no like great power, great responsibility moment. There's just, okay, so I need to do this, and like it's just one thing leads to another. Dots are connecting, but they're not connecting with a character arc. You know what I mean? The character arc is almost entirely separate. The only sort of resonation I could see is that maybe this is like some sort of rumination on like a midlife crisis for Anthony Mackie or an end life crisis for Anthony Mackie. It could be both or one or the other. And if they had leaned into that maybe a little more significantly, maybe it would have had some resonance. But it just doesn't really seem like they're related. It seems like this could have been any character in this position, and it would have had the same net effect. And when you do that, it makes the errors in your sci-fi logic really stand out. So I think that's kind of like the crux of my major issues with that. That said, Rob is dead on. I think the cinematography in this movie, we haven't brought it up, but that is the standout for me in this movie. The way this movie is shot, the way things dissolve and reappear, the way that that swooping shot of the city, like the way that it smash cuts from Anthony Mackie in one setting to another, like I like all of that. And I think that whoever the cinematographer was on this is fucking great. And I would love to see more of that shit. So good on that. I thought the acting overall was really good. I did buy the friendship of the two leads, but I will say that I don't think that we got the full context of what the relationship is. It's almost like Anthony Mackie is kind of like an extra part of the family, but he doesn't have his own family. But they don't really ruminate on that. We don't know, like, we never see Anthony Mackie talk about or think about his family that he found washed up, and they make a point of bringing up as being unearthed by Hurricane Katrina, presumably. I don't even think they say that outright, but
I think they do.
Do they? Okay. Yeah. Well, nevertheless, like there's no actual moment of resonance for that either. We're just kind of told that he has a past, and like that's it. I don't know. I have a big problem with that, with connecting with these characters because of that, and connecting these characters to each other because of that. So I don't know. And also, I wanted this movie to be trippier than it was based on the trailer. I think we got enough of those visuals for it to work, but it wasn't psychologically trippy. It was just visually trippy, and that's, to me, it's just not fully enough for a really, really good movie. What else? Yeah, I think that's really the crux of it, is like this just, it seems like a sci-fi concept with any given characters thrown in and some semblance of a character arc that doesn't really connect to the concepts at play, the sci-fi concepts. They just don't meet. So that's my biggest complaint, and it really does, for me, hamper my enjoyment of it. It makes me question what the point of the movie is, like both in making it and in watching it. So in that sense, I was kind of disappointed, especially because there's all this good stock here. You know what I mean? So in that sense, I mean, with all that in mind, I think I'm just going to give it a 3, as Rob did. It's not bare minimum. You know what I mean? It's better than absolute middle of the road for me, because that cinematography is so mouthwatering to me. It's so good. Some of the concepts of like pulling things through time and having them warp with time, like the doubloon that's all warped. I loved that. The fucked up sword, like I loved all that, but it just doesn't tie in, and it's just really more spectacle seeming that doesn't really even support itself at that point. So yeah, 3 3 for me.
3 from Randy's going to put the aggregate at a 2.8. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Synchronic.
Certified fresh to death.
All right. So if you're new to the podcast, I don't know why you're here, but thank you. And we're going to do a segment called Rotten Tomatoes, in which these two gentlemen are going to guess within 0 to 100% how many of the critics gave this a positive review. And then we're going to do the same with the users. All right. Let me pull up my notes here. All right. Juice, we're going to start with you. We're going to start with the critics as well. There are 131 critic scores for this film. What percentage do you think were positive reviews?
I don't know why, but I think people are going to like this movie more than I did. So I'm going to go fairly high on it. And I'm going to say 78.
78. All right. 78% for Soju. Bobby, what are you thinking?
I'm going to go a little bit higher with an 82, please.
A little bit high. No. All right. 82% from Bob. Justin, are you man enough to give that hell yeet to Rob
I'll
and
give
his
it hell
successes?
skeet, Bob.
Thank you.
Oh, shit.
Bob likes
Deviant
to skeet a
as
little
hell.
bit more, I think.
From the windows to the walls.
Go on.
Damn,
No,
how high was it, Randy?
Rob is actually going to get a little ringy dingy 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 ding.
Oh,
82% positive.
Ding-a-lang.
82%.
Yes.
Good going for Bob. Let's read this critic.
Yeah.
I'll
You know
axe
me.
a ding-a-ling. All right. Fun and games. Let's read this critic's consensus here. Synchronic sets off on an intriguingly and idiosyncratic sci-fi journey that should satisfy fans of Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson's earlier work. Okay, yeah. If you liked Uwe Boll, you'll like Uwe Boll's new movie in which he does the same shit.
Same weird shit.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay. It doesn't really speak to the movie so much, but whatever. All right, let's go to the audience score, though, before we get into the negative reviews here. Let's start with Bob. Bob, what do you think the audience gave this? And there are only, again, weirdly, 131 of those also.
Wow, okay. I feel like it's going to be a little bit lower than the critics. I feel like people are not going to love this movie. I don't think anybody... I don't know. I'm just going to go with a 75, please.
75 percentile from Bob. Soju, what are you feeling?
I'm going to go slightly lower with a 72.
72 percentile. All right. Bobby,
Yo.
you are so close to having 2 ringy dingies in the
Damn.
evening. So close. 76%.
Damn. All right.
Damn.
You
Bob,
have
just
a
got
margin of
hell
error
yeet
of-
Sweep.
Hell yeet sweet.
Hell ski, Bob.
Oh, ski,
Hell
motherfucker.
You got a-
the hell ski
You got a
sweep.
0.5% margin of error today. God damn.
Damn.
I'll take it.
Bob, I don't want to
Well
call
done.
you a cheater, blumpkin eater, but that's very suspicious numbers you got there.
How does one eat
Pumpkins.
pumpkin?
Bob.
Lunkins. Anyway,
Ray-
let's pick a random negative review. What?
I was going to say, can you please update the pumpkins graphic and make it say Blumpkins so I can get that on a coffee mug?
Oh yeah, I'll put it on top of my list.
That's how you eat a Blumpkin right there. Thank you.
So in 2 years, you'll get it, Bob.
That's how you achieve a Blunkin. All right, as we do, I'm going to read a random negative review just for the fuck of it. Usually they're funnier. Synchronic is frankly just silly and tedious, with faintly absurd and jeopardy-free time travel scenes and a dramatic focus hopelessly split between Dennis and Steve's separate but equally tiresome lives.
Damn. That's brutal.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
it's pretty harsh.
pretty brutal, but I can't say that I disagree too much.
Yeah. Was that by soju69 at hotmail.com?
Nah, that was by. Well, I don't know if we'll get in trouble for saying that.
Hot Randy 69.
Some asshole.
Hot Randy.
Not smart guys like us. Not really smart critics like us.
Totally.
We got it perfect. We know.
All right, and there's your rotten maters. This shit ain't rotten to anybody but us, apparently.
Yeah, what it wait? Yeah, it wouldn't be fresh in our eyes.
No.
Oh, well.
We are not men of any people or critics. We are outlanders.
We're our own men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Deviants, if you will.
Randy, thank you for the Rotten Maters there. Juice, is there? You said there's a little bit of trivia, right?
There's a scotch. It's worth the time.
All right, let's jump into it.
It's totally time for trivia.
Crypt Keeker's just not sticking to his cues. I don't get it.
All right, boys. So we're going to do a little trivia. So Bob had mentioned this before, but this takes place in New Orleans, Louisiana, where one of the lead actors, Anthony Mackie, was actually born. So he's from New
shit.
Orleans. So
Didn't know
that's
that.
nice for him, yeah. The name of Steve's dog is Hawking. It's a
Yeah, I
reference
noticed that.
to the late English physicist Stephen Hawking, given the fact that there is some information about quantum physics and time travel in the movie. Whoa.
Tie.
Subtle nod there. It would appear when Steve goes back seeking Brianna, he ends up in a war zone. It's difficult to say for certain what the conflict was. Yet with the stars and bars Confederate flag on display, it could well have been the Battle of Fort Jackson and St. Philip, April 18th to the 28th in 1862. This proved to be a decisive battle for possession of New Orleans in the American Civil War. Steve and Brianna most likely get caught up in what turned out to be an ineffectual bombardment of rafts by mortars from Union forces. Of course, it could all be made up and not connected. Ends this trivia.
All right.
Okay.
Fucking IMDb, man. Of course, I could just be reading way too much into it, says the trivia section.
Towards the end, when Steve goes back to find Brianna, he is confronted by a French slaver who seeks to claim him as his own. The slaver levels a musket at Steve. The musket is a flintlock, yet it is not primed.
Clearly.
As the frizzed plate is forward, clearly.
This is like when you tell us all about how air ducts work when we're watching fucking Die Hard.
Clearly.
Amateurs.
This would render the weapon incapable of firing in the circumstances. Perhaps the fog and smoke of war prevents Steve from spotting this.
Probably.
Who knows?
Probably.
Exclamation.
Does it say who knows? Does it really say that?
No, it
oh
says
shit, I thought you added that.
Who wrote this shit?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, it's just a movie, says IMDb's trivia section. Fucking hell. I love that shit.
Pretty good.
I love crowdsourcing shit like that. It's so funny.
If it weren't for the fog of war, he clearly would have spotted it.
Ah, yes, it's the fog of war that did it.
That's a flint rock musket, and the jib is forward, and
The old jib.
that renders it useless, sir.
But who
man, his smack
knows?
jam's totally up the wrong side.
Smack
Yep.
jams logging on the flound dip region of the weapon.
Man,
there.
I can't even make up words quick enough to make this bit
Totally.
work. Jesus.
There's I guess this would probably be a decent time to mention the alternate ending. Quote,
Yeah, tell me
alternate
about
ending.
this alternate ending,
So
please.
apparently, these guys when they put a movie out on Blu-ray, they often film and include a joke alternate ending that's a bonus feature on the disc. So I guess they did this for like The Endless and Spring and Resolution, and they on the disc for Synchronic they have like a little blurb before the ending happens to let you know, like, hey, this is a joke alternate ending. We do this in all of our previous discs. But apparently they never put that warning out on the other discs. So people are watching these joke alternate endings, not really realizing that they're jokes. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so happy they did not go with this ending and they went with the other one instead. So they give you that little background knowledge and then show you what the alternate ending is. And it shows a little paw carving always on the rock, like alluding to the
like
dog.
it was the dog doing it with a chisel in his paw.
Sure. I also like that's kind of funny. I it's kind of a cock tease though. I did think that there might be an alternate ending that might work better, but is what it is. Also, the Hawking thing, I wanted to bring that back real quick. That is 100% cribbed off of Back to the Future. The naming of your dog after a famous scientist, like that's very much Doc Brown's shtick. But anyway, all right.
Let's well, I think that's gonna do it for trivia. Let's go ahead and talk about Cooter of the Week. Time to go hunting.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a cooter?
Cooter is character type, straight chillin' exclusive. A cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, and we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, who are we taking to cooter court this week?
I don't know if there's an outright cooter in this movie. Nobody's like really ring-a-dinging for myself.
There's one guy.
Yeah, what you got?
There's one guy who I don't know if he'll hit all the points, but he hits at least one of them. And that is a character that has no name, as far as I know, as far as I remember, which is the old white cop who shows up at a few of these crime scenes that these paramedics are going to. Do you guys remember him? The guy who holds a gun on Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you get for dressing like Tupac or whatever he says.
Yeah, he calls him Tupac, and it's like, yeah. So right there, that's that, and that specific line is the smug arrogance that I was looking at. I was like, okay,
yeah,
this guy is way up his own asshole and very comfortable being extremely racist to people he depends on to, save lives and shit.
Yeah,
nothing important. Anyway, so there's that. As far as looking attire, he's just wearing standard cop gear. Patheticness, I think it's pretty pathetic to have that attitude personally, but I don't know if that's quite strong enough.
I can't remember him well enough. He was,
and the thing is, there's not enough of him, I don't think, to really.
Yeah.
There's a lack of evidence here, and I feel like if we had seen more of him, it would have been clear, but we didn't need to see more of him within the story. So, manipulation, I don't know if there's any of that. I don't know if there's no sexual deviance that we can see from him.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Mackie, he's like maybe sexually deviant. He's just
I don't think he's deviant.
Calls, but yeah, I guess not super deviant. Yeah, he's just.
I don't think that's deviant at all.
Yeah,
he's just
a person having an active love life is totally fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay.
He is like stealing drugs out of the ambulance, which is pretty pathetic.
It would be if you didn't have a fucking brain tumor, though. Like, I don't know.
I think he's just doing it because he likes to get high, man.
Really? I thought it was because he was a horrible headache from the brain tumor.
Yeah, me too. I thought so too.
Well,
because he's like at the beginning, he's like, I'm hungover, I'm crazy hungover, but he finds out that it's not that. It's a brain tumor.
It's like he's like, man, this hangover is hitting me a lot harder than it normally does. But yeah, he's just got a fucking brain tumor.
Now his friend doesn't know that, and he assumes what you just described, which is that he's turning into a junkie.
Yeah.
And from his friend's perspective, I would agree with you. But like just knowing what we know about his medical situation, I find like when they have that conversation where he's like. It's like, don't become a junkie now or whatever. And his friend's like, I'm fine. It's like, yeah, I can see somebody doing it that way where it's like if we worked together, the three of us worked together or whatever, I found out I had a fucking brain tumor and was not trying to like bother you guys with it because your daughter was missing, then maybe I would just be kind of cagey about that and be a little irritated when you press me on it. But I don't know.
Maybe there's no Cooter.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
I don't.
Yeah.
There's not one, nobody besides the cop even really hit that one like cadence for me. You know?
There's not a lot of people, that we spend a
There
lot
are.
of time
I mean,
with.
could
at
you?
least.
It's tough to say like somebody like the tribesmen or something. Like how
I
you gonna
guess
say
like
that?
the KKK member is the only one that kind of.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
for obvious
He's a piece of
reasons,
shit.
he's a piece of shit. But we don't
Yeah.
know anything about that person.
True, yeah.
Right, and all we know is that a guy showed up in his living room like a ghost,
Yeah.
and he chased him out and was going to hurt him for being in his house twice. Like,
Yep.
I kind of find that difficult to be too mad about
Yeah. Okay.
in and of itself. The white supremacy thing is a whole different issue. but-
Okay, Randy,
Yeah.
Mr. Sympathizer over there.
Oh wow.
Yep, that's me, big white supremacist sympathizer.
Just teasing.
Big white Randy. Yeah, I don't think. I don't think.
Big white Rand. They call me the big white block.
I don't think there's a Cooter in this movie. We tried. We went
Randy's more of a
hunting.
translucent.
Big translucent.
That's accurate. Unless I'm in the sun for 30 seconds.
Well, let's go ahead and let our hair down. We're getting into the social hour, and we're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what you been watching?
Well, it's been a fucking hellish week for me in terms of work to accomplish. So aside from like the usual diet of just like whatever music videos and reaction videos to shows I've seen a million times and shit like that I have playing while I work, the only thing that I've really sat down and watched has been WandaVision. And I forgot to bring that up last week, but I watched another episode this week. I've been, keeping my eyes on that thing. And I am surprised how much I enjoy this show. It's pretty good. I think it's got this, like, it's very much got a very mystery element, very X-Files element to it. But it's also like the way it's presented is so stylistically perfect. I don't want to get too deep into it because like especially like this new episode really sort of like kind of opened up some doors for the plot and how it works and what's going on and all the things. But it's very much a central mystery sort of show that I don't think we're going to get full answers to until, I don't know, maybe not the end of the season, but certainly not right away. We're on episode 4 and we're just starting to scratch the surface with what's really going on. But the way it's presented is so fun and so interesting. I like it. I like it quite a bit. And I can see some of the stories they're drawing from the comics. I can remember some of those things. And I at least I think so. And I'm pretty pleased with the way they're handling it. So it's a tough show to talk about because it's a huge cultural touchstone and I don't want to spoil a thing. But I think it's worth a watch. And that's coming from somebody who is very much medium on a lot of the Marvel shit.
Nice, yeah. That trailer looks really fucking cool, and I've only heard good things. I fully intend to watch it, but I have not gotten around to it. You, I think, are probably similar to me in the fact that I'm somewhat like I like some Marvel movies, but I'm not like a Marvel head or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if you like it, then I'm sure I will.
Yeah, I have gripes with the whole MCU, but I don't, and I hate talking about it because it's just, I don't know, it's just a tired conversation for me.
Yeah.
But when I like them, and I think that so far, unless something goes catastrophically wrong, I think I'm going to be pretty pleased with this show as a series, at least through the end of the season. So,
Sweet. Anything else?
no, really nothing to speak of. I'm sorry to say. I have played some Tetris 99 on my way to
Damn.
sleep at night. So yeah, that's the extent of my entertainment engagement.
All right. Juice, what you been watching?
My watch list has been pretty slim too, honestly. I've been watching a shit ton of King of the Hill clips on YouTube. Like, Jesus Christ. Posted one of my faves in the Slack. I've been with that, but of course they always just keep suggesting to you. I'm always like, it's 2 minutes. I'll watch it. And so I've just got caught up in that freaking whirlwind. I am still chugging through damn Sweet Home. And it's good enough, but it just seems to go on forever. I think I'm close to finishing it. That's that Korean show that's kind of like Resident Evil on Netflix. I fully intend to do a mini episode on it as soon as I can damn finish it. So that's still trucking along. And I got to go see Saint Maud, the new film from A24 that got pushed back from last year, Rob, like for the wide release. Or so A24, it's very much in their horror style, like a blend between like a Hereditary and The Beach kind of feel to it. It's got a lot of religious themes going on in there, and it was good. It was on par for their style and the way that they kind of have movies crafted in their kind of horror genre. Very art housey, very some wild shit going on. But I enjoyed it. It was fun to go to the movies. Got to go with Bob and old Mikey from Let's Get Physical Media, and watch that. And that's really about it. Actually, I haven't watched anything else. Bob?
Yo.
What you been watching? What'd you think of old Saint Maud?
Saint Maud's pretty good. We might end up doing a full-blown podcast on it here at some point if we can fit it into the schedule. So, I keep it light and spoiler-free. Overall, it's good. It's a solid installment in the A24 like art house horror subgenre. They sort of like corner the market on that sort of thing. And it's good. It's short and sweet. I want to say it was like 85 minutes long. It's a quick, tight little movie.
Yeah, I was surprised when it ended. I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, it's only got a handful of characters, real small cast, real low key, but playing with some pretty cool themes. And it was stressing me out. It's kind of a stressful movie, but in a good way, not a bad way. So check it out if you are able to. Other than that, I watched a movie called Daughters of Darkness. I picked this up on 4K this past week. It's from 1971. It is a vampire movie. Joe Bob showed this way back in his original The Last Drive-In Marathon on, was it like June 13th, 2018, which was really supposed to be the last one he did, and then it broke the internet. This was like the only movie that I didn't watch of that marathon, and I think they pulled it off Shudder, so I just never could. So it's first time seeing this. Pretty cool story. It's about this like newlywed couple, and they take a vacation. They're going on their honeymoon, and they stay at this like really fancy hotel, sort of in the middle of nowhere. And there's this really wealthy lady that like comes to stay. She's like a countess, and she's got like her aide with her, this young woman that like helps her out. And they just like take a liking to this couple, and of course, they turn out to be vampires, and she wants to like,
of course,
have this couple like just be part of her little coven. So she's like following them around and like courting them, and they're just being manipulated basically, and they slowly start to turn on one another, and blood, murder, mayhem, all that stuff. It's a solid little thriller, and it gets wonky towards the end, but I would recommend checking it out, especially if you can find the Joe Bob interstitials. I'm sure he had some cool stuff to say about it. So yeah, good shit. Check that out. Also, I watched Jaws again because why not? Jaws fucking slaps.
So early, Bob.
I know. I have a daddy kink.
Whoa, Bob! Save it for the Hotline Kings.
That's the
Jaws
new bum.
is your daddy.
That's god damn. When did I say that? Do you remember when I said that?
Man, when didn't you say that?
Where did that come from?
Feels like I can't turn around without you telling me about your daddy.
Tell me that every day. You're very proud of it.
I just can't shut up about my daddy kink. Wow. The more you know.
I've been meaning to pull that one for so long, and finally I remembered to send Randy the timestamp.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
You got some good bumps, Bob.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, revisited Jaws. It's still as good as it ever was. Duh. Also, I watched You Got Mail for the first time ever. I'd never seen that movie before. It's great. It's a great little like rom-com.
You got mail?
Yeah, first timer.
You want candles to make your room smell mossy? I fucking loved that fucking Steve Zahn performance. You don't remember that shit?
Oh,
it's a very off the cuff thing.
Yeah. You get a dash of Steve Zahn in that movie, and he is just a damn delight in anything and everything that he's in.
I don't remember really anything about that movie except Steve Zahn, and I'm okay with that.
It's a good movie, I think. But yeah, Steve Zahn, he mentions early on something about the internet, because this is from like 1999, I want to say, is when the movie came out. So it's like early internet, and Tom Hanks and there's like an online romance, basically, is what the movie's about. And Steve Zahn just says like,
How unheard of.
The internet's like just another way for girls to break up with you or something like that. And it's just like real off the cuff Steve Zahn. I don't know. The shit cracks me up. It's good. Check it out. That's really all I've been watching.
I cannot believe we're talking about You've Got Mail on this podcast.
It is one of Alice's favorite movies. I had to watch it.
Hey,
had to do it.
Power to you.
Yeah.
We reviewed Ghost on here. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised.
Did a full episode on Ghost, and you know how I feel about it.
Oh, my darling, I'm a righteous brother.
That's how the lyric goes?
That's how it goes. They talk about being righteous brothers, and then they talk about paying their taxes and filling out their 401ks.
That's great. That sounds phenomenal. That's all I've been watching. We do have one more segment to get to. It is the Hotline Scream. Let's do it.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We prompted everybody last week about the Hotline Kinks. We asked people to call in and let us know what turns you on, what gets you going. We got one voicemail this week. Didn't really have anything to
daddy
do.
kink.
Didn't have anything to do with daddy
That was a
kink.
good one.
Keep it in your shorts.
God damn.
There's no daddies here.
Why?
Well, let's not say that.
Well, no legitimate daddies. We'll get Montel Jordan on the case. Not Montel Jordan. What's his name?
Montel Jordan.
What is that fucker's name?
Just Montel, I think, is what you're...
This is how we do it. I can't remember that fucker's name. Who's the guy who did the You're Not the Father? Who is that?
Maury? Is that... No.
Maury.
Is that Maury?
I think it is.
I don't know.
I get those names mixed up. It's the M's.
It up.
Yeah. And
That sounds right.
The other guy did it too, right? They all I feel like all
Springer,
those daytime shows
but
did
one guy made it his whole deal. I'm pretty sure it was Maury Povich.
Maury Povich. Yeah, I think you're right. Didn't Springer have like a security guard that was also called Maury or something like that?
I don't know, but Jerry, if it wasn't like...
It's Maury. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Maury did that. Jerry did every other horrible, ridiculous thing that you can imagine.
Yeah, like the lady that was afraid of pickles, and then he brought out a bunch of pickles. Cotton balls? The lady was afraid of cotton balls?
That cotton ball lady is terrified of fucking cotton.
Take Bob on there and bring out some
dangerous
teeth.
God, that would be...
we don't kink shame, we don't phobia shame either. So
True.
power to you, power to you, non-pickle lady. May you live in a cucumber-free world.
God bless. So we do have one voicemail this week. Nothing to do with kinks, but we are going to hear from Justin. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hey guys, it's Justin. I'm calling back to defend my argument from last week about how I said Halloween 2018 was the second best Michael Myers film, and here's why. So I'm going to start with my personal reason. It was actually the very first horror movie I ever saw when I was 8 years old, so it'll always hold a special place in my heart for that reason. Now, moving past that, as good as I know Justin mentioned that 2 and 4 were better, and while I agree that 4 was definitely one of the better ones, and same with going to the first one too, there's something about the way Dick Warlock portrayed Michael in that movie. I'm not saying by any means that 1 and 4 are bad portrayals of him. I mean, obviously you can't hate on the original, but I don't know. The way he moves more almost robot-like, I guess, kind of gives him like just a slightly more creepy feel to me. I don't know. It's just, to me, it always seemed as the superior out of all of them. So that's kind of my argument. It's not a super strong argument. It's more personal than anything. But so yeah, that's my reasoning. I just wanted to make my case. So there you go. Hope you guys have a good week and keep chilling as always.
So I want to clarify. Yeah, I want to clarify.
I got very confused.
Yeah, that's understandable. I was talking to Justin on Facebook about this, so I know what he was talking about. So he called in last week and said that Halloween 2018 he believes is the second best Halloween movie in the franchise. And what he did not say in the voicemail, but what he did tell me in a message when we were just talking about Halloween, the franchise, Halloween 2 is his favorite. So in this voicemail, he's talking about Halloween 2.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he was talking about 2018 being the first horror movie that he watched at the age of 8, and I was like, well, wait a second. How
Halloween
old are
2.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he leads with saying that's
10.
his second favorite, and
How
here's
old
why.
are you, 10-year-old?
Yeah.
You should not be listening to us speak at all.
Yeah, we were just talking about
You are
kinks.
10 years old. Please turn off your podcatcher of choice. now.
Stop catching this pod, please.
Yes,
pitching.
drop the pod.
God in
Whoa, Jesus.
heaven. God in heaven. But yeah, thanks for calling in.
Monster.
Yeah, that was uncalled for.
Halloween 2 is a fucking slapzilla of a movie. I think it's pretty fucking great. However, saying that it's the best in the franchise, I don't know. Kind of that's a ballsy statement, man. The original
is not my feeling.
Yeah, the original is tough to beat.
Yeah, and then to put 2018 above the original, ooh, that's a bold.
Yeah,
move.
to put 28. Yeah, the original doesn't crack the top 2 is really bold.
Yeah.
But
To each their own.
yeah, just happy to have you on the squad, guy. The old Justin squad.
Sometimes you just need.
We're
Sometimes you just know. You want dick. You just want dick
And
in that
warlocks.
role. Yeah,
Yes.
you need a little dick warlock. You got it.
What a wild
Got
name. That is a person. Dick Warlock.
Yeah.
That's on an IRS form somewhere.
Well, it probably says Richard. Richard Warlock.
Please, Richard's my dad. Call him a Dick Warlock.
Dick Warlock. Last name Warlock. That's a badass last name.
That is a badass last name.
Call me Bob Warlock from now on.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No. No.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. Yeah, thanks for calling in, Justin. Again, if you're listening, want to call and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any other prompts you want to pose for next week?
If you could go back in time to any time
If you could turn
And carve
back
something
time.
into a rock.
No. Yeah, what time would you
I wanna know
choose?
that.
If you could
What
go back in
time
time.
would you
Is it
What would you
permanent or
choose?
not, though? That's an important distinction.
Let's say it's not permanent. Let's say you're taking drugs. Do you
For
only
7
get 7
minutes.
minutes?
Let's say
Sure.
you're taking drugs.
Sure. Yeah.
7
You
minutes
get
in
7
heaven.
minutes, yeah. What time? If you could choose the time, which one would you go to for 7 minutes? You can't do a whole lot in 7 minutes.
Apparently,
Tell
you can
me-
do a lot if you're in Synchronic. You see a lot
Well,
of shit. A lot of shit.
Yeah.
I'm getting into a lot of
Really?
trouble, apparently.
Yeah. I would go as far as to say, please call in and tell us what you would carve on a rock. I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely want to know if you could go back in time, what tree or rock or whatever would you carve, and what would it say? Tell me.
Good question. Yeah, call in and let us know. We'll play it on next week's show. Speaking of next week's show, we're going to be back with a brand new review, as always. We're going to be hitting up our next Patreon pick. This one was chosen by Nicole, and the movie is The Peanut Butter Solution.
Oh,
She climbed her way
shit.
out of hell, I see.
Yeah, Nicole,
Oh my god.
we let her come
Well,
come back from hell just so that she could sign up for a Patreon you pick, and she chose this movie. So here we go.
She brought this movie back with her. I'm pretty sure this one is not of this earth.
Randy, you have talked about this movie before.
I have. It is
the only reason I know about
it is
it.
a fun conversation piece. I'll leave it at that for
Well,
now.
cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, I guess, a spooky movie for children. It's from 1985. Never seen it before. I don't know. I guess we'll get
I've
into
never
it
seen
next
it before
week.
either. I only know because Randy
You're gonna
talked
have-
about it.
You're gonna have doorways open that you never thought would open.
Oh.
Damn. I have a daddy kink. Okay, we're really getting some mileage out of this bump. I think you're good. That's
It's a good bump.
That's enough of that.
It's so clearly stated.
Yeah, I wish. Why did I enunciate so hard?
You wanted us to know.
Yeah, you just brag about it all the time.
Look, man, it's okay. Have some pride. One day you'll find the daddy of your dreams. Did you know that there's like these games called dating simulators, and like they're pretty common for people to go and like it's a bunch of anime girls and you try and date them. They made one that is called Dating Daddy.
You know,
or something.
everybody knows. Randy knows the kink.
Randy does. I don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, I'm like, you guys can pretend all you like. Nobody's fooled.
I actually know what you're talking about.
I don't.
already.
Yes, of course you do, because this is common knowledge.
Well,
You can't swing a
it's
dead
not
cat
so.
without hearing about this shit. And I swing dead cats constantly.
So you date anime characters?
It's a dating.
Yeah, it's like an RPG
yeah,
kind
it's like
of
an RPG.
It's
Okay, so it's a
basically like
video
a
game.
choose your own adventure story video
Yeah.
game, yes. But there's
Okay.
one where it's called like, what is it called? Daddy Dating or something, where you literally try and find the dad of your dreams. It's really disturbing in concept to me. But people love this fucking thing. It's like a popular one, as I understand it. I watched
you try and find a dad you want to bone? That's what it is?
kinda, yeah. But they don't say that outright, I don't think.
Huh.
I mean, some of them I think probably do, but like as a genre, I don't
very
think that's like
intrigued.
necessary. Well, I mean,
I got questions.
Tell me where to go, Randy, says Bob.
Okay.
his Daddy King.
I get kickbacks from Big Daddy Incorporated.
Weird. Big dad.
Whole nother thing.
I'd like to meet that dad. Thank you. Well, yeah, I guess do that too if you want to do that. But more importantly, call in and leave us a voicemail. Also, don't forget to watch the Peanut Butter Solution. Get ready for next week's episode. And that's it. That's all we got. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. Send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join on the daily conversations in the Slack channel, which has been popping off these past couple days, just hit us up on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the Slack channel fun. Leave us a voicemail, watch Peanut Butter Solution. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.